just lost Andrew.
He's been coming and going. So when he pops back up, let me know. We'll check him out. All right, let's get started. Let's do this thing. All right, lead heads. Welcome back to another episode of the Talking Lead podcast. I am your host, Lefty, where we have been bringing you 12 years of leducating the unleducated here on the Talking Lead podcast. And we've got a doozy of an episode for you lead heads this episode. You are not going to want to miss a minute of it. And Andrew's back. All right, Andrew. As you guys have seen on the social medias, or maybe you haven't because a lot of you listeners aren't on the social medias, I made a post letting you know that we're going to be talking about executive protection this episode. And I think you know where that's going to lead to. Who's typing? Someone is typing like a fiend.
Andrew, are you typing?
It might have been me. I was looking for that overhead shot. Sorry.
Okay, I'm going to mute you while you're looking for that. So sometimes we do that. So when you're ready to talk, just unmute yourself there, Andrew. And I've got a room full of executive protection experts on this podcast, and everybody is a veteran of the show. So that's awesome too. I don't think we could have gathered a more knowledgeable group of people to talk about this topic than what I've gathered here. I don't think you're going to see it on CNN. You're not going to see it on CBS. You're not going to see it on Fox. You're not going to see it on Joe Rogan. We have gathered the cream of the crop here, ladies and gentlemen. So we are going to be talking executive protection, and we're going to be breaking down and analyzing the fiasco that happened this weekend with the Trump attempted assassination. I know everybody's seeing all kinds of information. You're getting your information from all these different places, and everybody's saying different things and different opinions. But you're going to get the facts, nothing but the facts here from our panel of experts that we have gathered. And as you can see here on the screen for our viewing audience, and for those who are listening, I will go through the roster here that we have just one by one here. To my right, we have veteran of the show. He was one of the first guests we ever had on the podcast up in our early 20 episodes. Met this guy back in 2013 at one of the NRA conventions. Jim Erwin, the Kraken, ladies and gentlemen.
Hey, thanks for having me back on the show, Lefty.
Yes, sir. Jim, thank you for joining us. Also joining us to his right, according to my screen, we have the Colonel himself, ladies and gentlemen, Brian Seaver. Brian, welcome in.
How you
and
doing?
Brian was on episode 387. And we talked about the Tennessee Rangers during that episode, but Brian's got a whole list of bona fides, and I'm going to go through everybody's bona fides here and their credentials so that you know that these people know exactly what they're talking about. So now we'll go down to second row to directly below me. We're doing the what's that TV family that had the little boxes and everything? The Brady Bunch. We've got Andrew Cousins. Ladies and gentlemen, Andrew was on our 422, episode 422. And Andrew, welcome in.
Good to be back, Lefty.
Andrew is an author, and we talked about his book, A Failed State, on that episode. He's got a couple of books out, but we're going to talk more about that. And then to the bottom right, ladies and gentlemen, another author. We had him on the show. It was episode 504. Daniel Fielding, the asset mindset, ladies and gentlemen. Daniel, welcome in.
Great to be here. Great to be back, and with such a great group of guys.
Absolutely, this is going to be fun. And another thing that you all have in common, and maybe Andrew, you do too. I don't know. Maybe we haven't talked about it. But you guys are all executive protection for celebrities and celebrities in the music industry, which is pretty cool. And I'm surprised you guys have never met. That's surprising to me.
They don't let me out a lot.
So, Brian,
Yeah, I'm back.
you're back, but you're not. Oh, we got you on here twice. So
Uh-oh.
let me kick you from that one. There. Now you just changed up my whole screen roster. But
Sorry.
that's okay.
Hey, I got moved to the top row. I'm all for it. I got moved up, promoted.
There you go. And I can move you guys around as we get into this. So we're going to talk executive protection here. First off, we're going to go into what executive protection is, so you guys can get an idea of what it actually means, what the job description is, what's expected, that kind of thing. But before we do that, I'm going to give your bona fides. So Jim is 11 and a half years U.S. Army. He served with the, how do you say, the 2/75th Ranger Regiment?
2nd of the 75th Ranger Battalion, so 275 Rangers, 2nd Battalion.
Perfect.
Real Ranger.
Yeah. Ranger tab and scroll.
Yeah.
There you go. Also, Delta Force. You want to throw that in there. He's got a whole list here. High Threat Protection Specialist, DYN Corp, Bosnia and Herzegovina.
Bosnia was called Bosnia.
Bosnia.
Was on an ambassador there for a few years doing protection.
Triple Canopy in Iraq and Israel. Province, and you're gonna have to say that name too.
Which one?
That
was the not that it really matters, but it was like the original launch when Triple Canopy started. So class 1, if you will, and then went over there and we had like 11 sites, and Sulmania was up in that northeastern Kurdish region. That went about 3 months, and then I moved that team down to Basra in the southern hemisphere there, if you will, of Iraq.
Right.
Warm and balmy spot.
He's now in the executive and celebrity protection business with, can we say who your principals are now or not?
Oh, sure. Yeah, that's what we do.
Slipknot.
Yeah, I can't get you tickets, so.
Damn it. Maybe I can just sneak in. You just let me know where you're going to be. You just leave that back door unlocked.
Right.
Yeah,
that ain't like getting an Uber.
Qualifications, experience, diplomatic security service training while in first SFOD Delta, FBI Advanced Firearms Instructor Certified, Executive Protection Training, Golden Seal Enterprises, multiple firearms training courses over the last 30 years, multiple awards, qualifications in the military to include leadership development, sniper schools, and shooting courses. A whole list of education here. Airborne School, Ranger School, Primary Leadership Development Course, Jump Master School, Sniper School.
You have to read all.
You have your own sniper training company.
I do.
Which is?
Shooting Performance Institute here in Northern Nevada, outside of Reno Lake Tahoe. And basically, we teach anything from a yard to a mile, pistol, carbine, long-range precision.
You name it, they'll do it. They've got it covered there. So that's Jim. And as I go through these guys, if I miss something, just throw it in there. We'll go to Brian next because he was next on the intro list. Brian is former U.S. Army, military police, subsequently assigned to Special Security Intelligence billets within the Department of Defense. He provided hostile environment survival training services, Red Team security. And what's the Red Team security, Brian?
Well, Red Team is when you conduct a defensive, intriguing attack on a client or on a target that's actually belongs to your forces. So to test the security systems of your own friendly forces.
Okay.
And I might add that was when I was working for Phoenix Consulting Group, which was absorbed by DynCorp probably in 2015. We were one of the premier corporate espionage and intelligence companies in the industry for a long time. And focused primarily on the industry side of the house, biomedical, pharmaceuticals, that kind of thing.
It helps identify vulnerabilities in your physical and electronic security things, so they can upgrade that prior to possibly ever getting hit. So it's a pretty valuable piece of the valuable asset to have done with those red cells.
Yep.
Very cool. He's a graduate in Executive Security International, ESI, and owner of Nashville, Tennessee-based security consulting company Squadron Augmented Protection Services.
STAPS.
Brian provides dignitary protection and specialized security support to high-risk individuals, celebrities, corporations. Can we talk about the celebrity that you most protect?
Sure.
Miss Dolly Parton, ladies and gentlemen.
Yep.
Do you want to? And we talked about this last episode that you were on too. You have relations with Dolly. You're her nephew, is that right?
Yeah, Dolly's my aunt. My mom is Dolly's middle sister, and my dad did Dolly's security for about 13 years before I did it. So
amazing. And then in 2019, Brian was appointed by Governor Bill Lee as Colonel Aide de Camp Governor's Staff, the highest honor granted to a citizen of the state of Tennessee for lifelong dedication and devotion to security of the state and protection of its treasures. And then, of course, the episode that you were on, we talked about the Tennessee Rangers. Give a little high level on them, and then they can go listen to the episode.
So the Tennessee Rangers is a Tennessee Public Benefit Corporation and nonprofit charity. The original Tennessee Rangers in the 1900s were the first state law enforcement agency in Tennessee, and they were allowed to kind of peter out in 1923. They were never mentioned in the State Department records after that, and we reconfigured and reconstituted, rechartered the Tennessee Rangers in 2018. And since then, we've been conducting humanitarian aid, law enforcement support, special security services, that kind of thing. And SAPS, Squadron Augmented Protection Services, is a subsidiary of the Tennessee Rangers.
Very cool. And if you guys want to hear more about that, like I said, we did an episode on it. It was episode 387. You go back, check that episode out. And then next on our list, we introduced Andrew, I do believe. So Andrew was on episode 422, and Andrew Cousins spent nearly 8 years deployed as a contractor for the CIA in a classified program that is still active in numerous areas of the world in the war on terror. He spent 4 years simultaneously training partner nations in counterterrorism tactics for the U.S. State Department of Global Anti-Terrorism Assistance Program. Since leaving these programs, including his time with an elite federal search and rescue program, Andrew has been employed as a consultant for a field trauma medical company, as well as representative for a canine-centered executive protection and hostage negotiation retrieval firm. And there's probably things to add to that since this bio was done, Andrew. So,
well, here's the connection to probably everybody that's doing stuff for the music industry. And it was a one-off, but my former military working dog, which came from 375, 10 years in 375, was the sole canine responsible in 2020. I think it was 22 or 23. I think it was 22 for explosive detection at Morgan Wallen's sole venue in Idaho at the time, which is in Nampa. So there's my music industry connection, my one-off. So
you're Kevin Bacon, 1 degree of separation.
Yeah. I ran him through the venue, and Morgan was unfortunately passed out from a lot of drinking up until his show, so we didn't get to meet him, but got to meet everybody else.
Now, have you done some movie consulting and things like that too?
I have. So recently I did technical advising for the prequel to Terminal List, which is called Terminal List Dark Wolf. So I was helping out there, and actually subsequently, against my better wishes, got cast as a SEAL in a couple of scenes for the Alpha Platoon.
Cool.
scenes. But yeah, we'll see if I show up in anything, man.
Is that the Ben Edwards? Or not Ben Edwards.
Jack Carr.
Yeah, Jack Carr, but the character that the prequel's on is based on the Ben character.
Yeah. In fact, my experience there with Chris Pratt and Brent Edwards' character, which is I'm losing my train of thought here. He's a really good guy. He actually lives in Montana.
The actor?
Yeah, the actor does.
Kush or something Kitsch?
Taylor Kitsch.
That's
and
it.
Started a non-for-profit veterans program that does like horseback riding or fishing or something. I can't remember what exactly they do, but he's pretty dedicated to the veteran community and doesn't show up in Hollywood unless he has to for work. So.
And then, of course, I mentioned you're an author. You've written a couple of books, and we talked about Failed State in the episode on 387 that you were on.
Yes,
and then the other book that you have, mention it.
Oh, that's just a sequel to that. It's actually a trilogy. The third book got hung up in COVID.
Shit.
Crap. So it's like 3/4 of the way done, but at the time I couldn't get anybody to help begin the process of editing, and the publisher went out of business during COVID, all that good stuff. But what's really cool is since my time with the cast and crew of Dark Wolf, Terminalist Dark Wolf, is somebody took interest in A Failed State and is in the process of converting that to a screenplay. So we'll see how that shakes out.
Oh, cool, man.
Congratulations.
Thanks.
Hell yeah. I can't wait to see that.
Long game, man.
And then last but not least, ladies and gentlemen, this is our most recent guest to be on the show. He's in episode 504, and we were talking about his book, The Asset Mindset. Daniel Fielding, and Daniel is a former Green Beret. Did I get that right?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, 7th Special Forces Group.
And I couldn't find like a really good bio on you, and you didn't send me one. So go into more detail about your military background.
Well, like I talked about on the episode of my book, I was one of those guys that came in after 9/11. I wasn't married, didn't have any kids, and I saw people deploying. I wanted to support the troops. Best way to support them is be there by their side. I dug into the research and read a book called Who Schools and all the different things. And I was like, I want to be a Green Beret. So I went to the recruiter and I came in with the contract for Special Forces. And luckily I was stubborn enough and strong enough to make it through, and ended up over in 7th Special Forces Group, B-27, and deployed to Afghanistan. Did some cool stuff there, had some cool advanced special operation techniques schools and things like that with intelligence and counterintelligence, human and whatnot. I got out and I did security, executive protection for a little over 2 years with Celebrity, and that was great. Had a great relationship, but with GWAT still going on, and I'm sure most of your viewers know what that is, but Global War on Terror, in case someone doesn't. I went back and was doing DoD work. So I was working with NSW, Navy Special Warfare. I was working with MARSOC, working with Green Berets from every single group, my group, 7th group, 10th group, doing training, military exercises. And then I moved to Nashville. Moving down to Nashville, the former Celebrity, my former boss / friend, was here in Nashville. And he's like, hey, I could use you again. So up until this year, I was head of security for Kid Rock. And what's, I think, really interesting, and I'm honored to be on the show here and discussing what's happened this past weekend, is obviously a lot of people know Kid Rock and Trump are friends. So I've had the opportunity to meet Trump several times, work with his Secret Service several times. I've been out there for the UFC fights with Dana White in Vegas, the one in Madison Square Garden.
Oh, dude, that's awesome.
Yeah, things here in Nashville. So as far as how those people handle, the professionals, what they do, hopefully I can bring some insight to today's episode. But now I'm focusing more on my book and doing motivational speaking and helping people get their head right and get that right mindset to stop being a victim and to change their life and change the world for a better place. And if there's any other questions, I'll answer more, but I don't want to keep just running my sock.
No, that's perfect, man. So what we're doing is we're qualifying to our listeners why you guys are here, and that again, you're not going to get this level of expertise on any of these other shows, especially with the volume that we have with you guys, between you guys. So this is going to be an awesome show. I'm looking forward to it. And like I said, I think the best way to start off is just really explain to our audience what executive protection is. What is your main primary job, and maybe differentiate it between military, because it's a different environment overseas than here in America, and what you're able to do and can do. So who wants to take that one? Start us off. You mean just point? Jim. Got your hand up.
Yeah, why not? I'll dive in. Dan left you a message up there too. One of the biggest things I found is when I was in the unit, we got trained, or one of your secondary jobs was to do protection work for generals in high threat environments. So the Balkan War was going on, and we had to go over there and do protection for the generals that were over there, and we kind of rotated throughout the squadrons who was going to go over. So I had the opportunity to go over there, and the biggest thing to your point is how it was different is we had carte blanche in the country. I mean, we could be doing 100 miles an hour down Sniper Alley, and it did not matter. We didn't stop for anybody. We basically had diplomatic, immunity to anything. We're protecting a 4-star general, at the time, and we were the end all be all. We could do what we wanted. We could, commandeer things, get onto the airfields, and this and that. So we had the entire backing of UCOM. Your Supreme Allied Commander, the General S4, as it was called, supplementation force. Anyway, fast forward that into executive protection, and now you got to play by rules, right? You can't be breaking the law and doing some of those other things. So you get a little more, I don't want to say handcuffs, but you're more regulated in what you can and can't do. And you have to play within those rules so that you are protecting your client, not only from physical harm, but also the what do you say? You can help me out here, guys, with the word. Not only physical harm, but you don't need them to be defamation of their character or anything like that, because you're a turd and not playing by the rules.
Nobody wants to chime in. Nobody's going to help you out there.
I'll come in too. I think that's the hardest thing for most of us in the military when we transition over to the civilian world, is realizing the environment is different and how difficult it is when you're like, judge, jury, everything. When you're downrange, like you're the American, and especially with our backgrounds and the different units we were with, like you pretty much had the go and range of, all right, I'm going to do this. I'm going to take this person out, or I'm going to, here in the States, it's different. It's civilians, it's Americans. And sometimes there's drunk people just being stupid. You just can't, eliminate somebody.
Yeah, throw the tuna.
Yeah.
And to caveat that too is when you get into this arena, as a special forces guy, agency dude, a unit dude, right? Everything, you were that 1% that everything supported. Now you're the support element, and you can tell them, hey, we should not do this in the unit, or when we're doing that stuff. And you had all that, or running in that military program thing. You say, hey, we're not doing this. We're just not doing it. If you don't do it for a high value client, celebrity, or something like that, you're looking for work. You give them their suggestions and say, hey, this is why I don't think we should do this. But at the end of the day, they're going to make the decision. You're either going to do it or you go find another job, or they take your suggestion and stay alive longer, or avoid some sort of bad, what's the word I'm looking for? Like, they get the shoe in the face, right? And you look like a turd on camera. So.
Yeah, it's tough. That's one of the things too, is, when you're working with a client that's a celebrity or has status and they're the boss, But then at the same time, you need to be the boss for security at times. And you don't have ultimate say. I mean, if shots are fired, then yeah, maybe, you're now taking control and you don't care what the client says. But if it comes to,
like
hey,
I
wanna
need
go
my
in this
shoes,
entrance,
like wait for my shoes. Let me get my shoes.
Yeah, and
but
or
But if there's like an entrance you want to go in, or you think this is more secure, and they're like, no, I want to walk through the front door and everybody to see me. Well, guess what? Now you got to roll with that. It makes our job harder sometimes, but we don't run the show at that point.
yeah, and you can find yourself hamstrung by venue security directors, local law enforcement, honorary chiefs of police that can all, you can find yourself having your dick stepped on something as essential as having your team armed in a venue or armed in a location. So it can be a real kid gloves kind of thing to deal with.
To give you a quick example on that, just recently, rolling to a venue with my client, and you never stop the motorcade, if you will. You're on target and where you're supposed to be, and the outer ring of security for this venue stopped us, and they made everybody get out, empty their pockets. These are the band members, right? And bomb sniffed the bomb sniffed the vehicle and everything. I'm like, are you insane right now? Like, what? No, but you were going to do it or you weren't getting in. Like, and they were pissed. And like, who do we talk to? And the band manager's like, I'll take care of it. And never heard about it again. But it was just one of those things like that would never happen in a different situation or a different country. Like, absolutely not. But there are certain things on the celebrity side, executive side, you just simply don't have control over. However, when you're the Secret Service, you have ultimate control. You are the gold standard for security. So, and I'm sure we're going to lead into some of that stuff later.
Yeah, definitely. So, is there a difference between executive protection and just personal protection, like bodyguard kind of deal? What is there a difference?
Well, I think there's a spectrum of the types of services that can be provided.
Talk about that. Yeah.
Well, I mean, it depends on the client in a lot of ways. It depends on the principal. We've done everything from the highest level celebrities to folks that are simply witnesses at a court case. So, that have no any kind of public attachment whatsoever. So, and there's a difference between celebrities and politicians. There's a difference between elected politicians that have state assets and politicians that are running for office that have private assets to do their security. So there's a large spectrum, and that spectrum is also represented in the type of professionals that work in those jobs. You're going to have a different level of guy working in an overseas high threat environment where you're running armored cars and you're looking for IEDs compared to the guy that you're going to have working in a typically a celebrity security or a showbiz security kind of apparatus. The guys that are on this panel are a little bit less reflective of the norm when it comes to celebrity security. You've got some pretty high speed guys on this panel.
Yeah.
Can I add to that, Brian, if you don't mind? And you're exactly right on that. There's so many different levels of security and qualifications that go with that, or what's acceptable. So to give you an example, if we're doing security for a high value client that's mandated through, like, they're worth multi-millions, if not billions of dollars, there may be a mandate through their insurance that they have security. And guess what? You get a one-person escort, not a multi-person detail.
Right.
A lot of these bands will only do one or two people in that side. But if, like, say, for example, I did another one shortly, I did a band or a person in the pop arena, and that crew, it was shortly after I was Ariana Grande, and then the Vegas shooting, right? And there was 12 of us, SF, Marsa. It was actually kind of a dumpster fire because there was too many roosters, and there was not too many hands. It was like we were picking at each other. Anyway, there's 12 of us, right? And most of it's 1 or 2, but you have an executive level, like look at like a Zuckerberg, Facebook, and multi-faceted, multi-dimensional mobility team, advanced team, a family team. And then I did a gig in New York. It was just me for 24/7 for 30 days. And then say Daniel would rotate in. He would run escort basically for 30 days. Nobody watching your 6. Different pay levels, different reasons and requirements behind it.
And is that all dictated by the insurance companies, like you were talking about?
It can be for to not really say exactly who it was, but say this is a foreigner who lives in New York City. Family is extremely wealthy, and the kid's going to go to NYU, and he's about 20 years old, worth a lot of money. And if he was abducted, blah blah blah, that type of stuff, life insurance. They probably think that, hey, yeah, put a dude on this guy so we can at least say he had security. Tedious. That was absolutely tedious. They give 2 shits, man. Like, they really didn't. Yeah, you'd find out like the day later. Your bros would be like, "Hey, I saw him in the club. Where were you?" I was at home sleeping because he snuck out. What do you do, right? And then you have others that, like a high value client, maybe it's just a very wealthy family, and that's their first time with security, and they have no idea what it entails, and it just blows them out of the water. And they're just, in any given day, you could be fired because there's no HR. You just look, they're just crossed that day, and you say something wrong at the wrong time, you're gone. So there's a massive gambit right in this, and every one of us could probably give you a story or 2 at least on how that goes.
I want to hear those. We definitely want to hear those. And again, of course, you got to leave people's names out or locations. That's fine. But yeah, we definitely want to hear about some of your more interesting stories. But back to the different types of clients and protection services that you guys offer. When you're doing your solo protection gigs, how far in advance are you casing out or do you get? I mean, you may not get notice. I guess it depends on how much notice you get, as if you know where you're going to be and doing the research and casing it out prior to, and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
When I flew solo, it was difficult, because you're flying in with the client, you're on their plane, you're showing up. So everything was pretty much, and I hate to do it, but it was all digital, Google, Recon, calling, talking to people that are at a venue or whatnot, at a hotel. The hotel ones or appearances are the hardest. Venues actually aren't that bad because there is venue security. They have a understanding of what's expected, or they know what to anticipate when a celebrity comes in for a show. So that's not as bad. But going to New York City, going to Vegas, going to different things, or, oh, hey, guess what? We have a change in the schedule. And you just have to roll with it, adapt, improvise, and overcome. Like we all say, it's cliche, but it's absolutely true. And that changes based on clients too, because some clients plan way ahead. Some of them get a phone call or a text and then they want to change. So it's also difficult on recognition. Some of the clients, like Jim was talking about, people that are very established or billionaires or own wealthy companies around the world. Well, you can walk down the street and nobody's going to know who they are. If you're walking around Tennessee with Dolly Parton, like who she is and is going to get attention. So those variables, even with clients, change the dynamic of executive protection incredibly.
Yeah,
Brian,
I think
you wanted to add to that. Yeah.
Well, yeah, a lot of the, I think the real essence of executive security, executive protection is having those eyes, having that presence through the door that your client's going to be walking through long before they walk through it. Even if it's on the micro level or on the macro, you would like to stretch it out and have weeks in advance to plan it. But if the situation comes down to it, it boils down to you being the first set of eyeballs through that door before they get through the door. It's the whole thing is about the advance. The whole thing is about precluding any danger and finding yourself in advance of that danger before it presents itself. So it's almost a philosophical kind of approach when you get down to it.
Oh. Andrew, we've not heard from you. Chime in, brother.
No, I'm just soaking it all in, man. I probably don't do as much solo stuff anymore. I certainly did when I was with the agency, at least 1 or 2 operators on an impromptu, target run or something. But I was thinking about my time with CBP doing Borstar and Bortac. I mean, I know Trump's rolling into he's at the convention right now, the Republican convention. I know that's run by the NSSE, which is what kind of where I got my start and actually met guys, from the intelligence agencies, because we were doing a 2000. I think I mentioned this during the show too. Lefty, 2002 Winter Olympics Super G venue at Snow Basin, just on the other side of Ogden. And when you have an NSSE component, I think it's National Special Security for Events. It's almost like a task force. At that time, everybody came to that playground. I mean, we had Secret Service, we had DEA, we had U.S. Marshals, we had FBI, just everybody and their brother in all their aircraft. So you almost have like a national incident management team, or the equivalent of, doing it, and that comes with a whole host of resources. And I think that's what he's playing with now, is just a giant bucket of resources they can pick and choose from to augment his security. But and if I'm correct in my assessment, just from watching the coverage, I do believe there was a counter assault team present for the Ohio speaking event. So I know it wasn't amateur hour, his detail and in or out recording, but I think as far as executive and personal protection, I mean, man, it's where he's at now is just is significantly elevated with the NSSE component. And I don't know if he's going to carry that all the way through to the end of the campaign, but
well, I'd say now he probably is going to be up his game. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, but that's it runs the gamut, and all these guys have probably experience, with everything from, the solo stuff to a large security contingent. But it's interesting, because I think there's just so much information we don't know about Ohio still that hasn't been out. I mean, what I'm really looking forward to is
How about Pennsylvania?
Or Pennsylvania, sorry. What I'm looking for is the congressional hearing with the director, because I think that'll kind of open the curtain a little bit.
22nd, I think that's when that's scheduled. If that happens, we'll see. But speaking of, working with the groups, you guys were kind of talking about the solo, and working with the different agencies too. I mean, when you're out and about, I mean, do you get in touch with the local law enforcement and let them know, what your movement's going to be and what's going on, and get any assistance from them?
100%. Yeah, it's a major part of the advance. I think that, there's a lot of overlap when you're dealing with especially a large celebrity. I mean, if you're at the Grammys, or if you're at the Oscars, it is a multi-agency unit that's controlling the ins and outs of that building and the security of that building and that functionality of that event. And so you have to do a lot of coordination and liaison with those folks. And there's a lot of, multiple teams showing up on site. And so the command and control is a major issue, and it can be a major hurdle to deal with for a celebrity security team, or even any kind of other protection team, a political candidate protection team that might be attending one of those events. It's a major thing. And I think having good coordination, good liaison with law enforcement is essential. And it can also be a major problem. Not all police departments are made the same. New York City is phenomenal to work with. LAPD is phenomenal to work with. But you can find yourself in bumfuck Egypt and have a real problem with the chief of police.
Yeah.
A hurdle for you, or a real even something that you have to worry about, a real danger in a lot of ways, especially when you get into the foreign security stuff.
Yeah. Jim, you were going to talk about that too.
Yeah, and he's hitting it spot on. If you're talking at that level, of national assets, right? They have what they call concentric rings of security. Your inner circle stuff being your agents that are on the body, right? They're on your asset, and then you have a middle ring that could be local assets, and they're usually excited to do that stuff. Your local law enforcement. You could have undercovers in between your inner circle, through the crowd, outer circle, that ring where that building would be your outer ring of law enforcement guys, armed agents in uniform that are out there to be noticed and seen, right? So you have those rings of security to make it that much more difficult to get in. So it's not just on you. Your advanced team is huge on that aspect and coordinating with that. But they can be difficult. And if you take this into an international stage, if there's a language barrier, different languages being spoken, different cultures and techniques, tactics. Give you an example. I was in Iraq, and we go to this meeting with my asset, and we've got our inner circle, and we have their security on the wall. Everything's got a wall around there, a compound, and then you have the outer security with local police blocking the roads and everything. And as we get ready to leave the venue, this dude from the middle ring, like the venue security, if you will, their assets, the guy we were meeting with, walks out into the street, and in order to stop traffic, he just basically ripped off about a 20-round burst with his AK as we're pushing the dang asset into the back seat and jumping on. Like, what's going on? That's how he just stopped traffic. He just ripped off a 20-round burst with the AK, and you're just like, wow. All right. Didn't think about that one. Right? So anyway, there's always that. You're not always on your own, but coordination is key. And I think as protection specialists, if you will, is that ability to assess, analyze, and adapt what you have to do to make things happen and or be more flexible with the assets you have in a given region, and still maintain the level of security that you demand of yourselves and your team.
Yeah, and I can imagine, especially with the level of executives that you guys work with, the principals that you work with, the different venues and the different environments that you're in constantly. From one day to the next. With Dolly, she's a movie star. She's a singer. She does, football games, baseball games. She does, charitable events. And that's got to be a nightmare to be able to plan for all the different.
Yeah. And works around every governor, works around every president. There's still a lot of overlap, and being embedded in a host security team as another security team can be very problematic. Over the last, I guess, 6-7 years, I've been working a deal with a client of mine, Peter Greenberg, who produces a show called The Royal Tour. And we go to a foreign country and we rendezvous with the head of state, the king, the prime minister, the president. And we travel around with them for a month, embedded with their security team. And so you can imagine how, hard it is to build rapport with, say, the Tanzanian presidential security detail for a month, and how that looks over that period of time. And it takes building trust, and it takes, having a bit of diplomatic capability to just go and work that. And that's on a private level. That's on a private sector job, but by the end of the job, the security detail is having you, bring the president out onto the beach, because they don't have small boat experience, and my team did. So there's a lot of rapport building that takes to get that done, and it's essential.
Yeah. What's some of the I guess the most dreaded maybe assignments that you've taken on? And we'll start with Andrew, and then we'll work around.
Insofar as like complexity of protection, personal
protection? Just as like, this is going to be a shit show. I'm just really going to hate this.
I think it can get boiled down to the Afghanistan theater, and every time there was an election, for replaced Karzai, and then on down the line, everything just got super chaotic because it was the Taliban and, the Al Qaeda command and control element that was looking to really disrupt that whole process and make America look bad. So anytime we had, to escort somebody or other to an election center or anything like that on behalf of the client, it was always, impromptu. It was always lacking, usable intel. It was always lacking route reconnaissance, and those were always, pretty harrowing details. And there's so many I can't even begin to narrow it down to one. But we were always getting errant rounds. We were always dealing with unknown individuals in that battle space because of the fact that, like I said, we had to do this, on short notice.
Yeah, and then trying to identify them, because they all look alike.
They do indeed, friend and foe.
I'm being racist. I mean, that's the way it is. Daniel, what about you?
Oh, geez. I would probably say for the most stress, I've done higher risk things and I've always had a team. It's been great. But running solo in Vegas and having to stay a step ahead always and meeting with, this casino's security manager, having drivers go from this show to that show and being there for like 5 days. I mean, there was one time in Vegas that I went to bed at 6:30 in the morning and I was up at 8:30 in the morning coordinating the next day's events. Because what a lot of people don't understand with executive protection, when you are that intimate with them, running solo and being an escort and whatnot, when you're by yourself, you don't go to bed until after they go to bed. And you have to be up and ready and have all the day's plans and everything set up, before they wake up. So that to me, I did 5 days straight in there. I was burnt out. I came home and I almost slept for a day straight. It was just so stressful. And luckily, downrange, I've been up for a while and I've done things like this. So I think that's why guys like us gravitate to these jobs too, or people like in the civilian world and the celebrities like having men like us, because we're used to that fast paced tempo and hey, we're going to do it and we're going to get the job done. Like I got to be up at 8:30. I don't care whether I went to bed at 6:30. I got to make sure the driver and then the venue and where we're going in, what side entrance, all those things need to be planned out ahead of time. You can't just be willy-nilly with your client, just like, oh, you're walking with them. Well, then you're not really security. You're just part of the entourage.
Yeah, and you mentioned Vegas, and I know Jim, is living out there, and he's done a lot out there too. Working with those casinos and those hotels and the local law enforcement there, because they are used to having, those high profile billionaire celebrity, type people out there. How difficult is it to work with the hotel security and the local law, because they've got a reputation themselves, the Las Vegas. Yeah, go ahead, Jim.
Yeah, and he hit it on the head on that one. Because of our personalities and the guys who seek these higher echelons one, and that's not to say we're better than anybody else, is we hold ourselves to a different standard. Therefore, we refuse to fail. We will go without sleep because we also approach it as, if I mess up, somebody dies. That's the level of that you have to have it in your head. Not, hey, you might look bad or get embarrassed, but like if you don't plan for survival and making sure nobody gets hurt, you can fail in that aspect. I'll give you a story, not on that, but I was just to highlight what Daniel was saying. But like Vegas is like the shit show of shit shows when it comes to security. Everybody's a tough guy, right? And I'll give you two examples of everybody's a tough guy. So wasn't even doing security one year, going to SHOT Show, and I reach across in SHOT Shows. Usually it was at the same time as the adult video entertainment awards things.
Right.
And years ago, I happened to reach across this bar, and there's this lady laying across the bar, doing whatever with the bartender, like giggling and stuff. I go to reach past her to get a beer, and this dude puts his arm right through my chest, and I'm like, "What the fuck are you doing?" Like, he goes, "You need to find a different spot." You know, I'm like, what are you talking about, dude? I'm just grabbing a beer. He's like, not here, you're not. You know, short, stocky, bodybuilder looking dude. And I'm like, what's your fucking deal? And I look over and I'm like, oh, you're doing security, aren't you? I said, well, good for you, because I do security too, and you're fucking wrong right now. And this dude starts to bow up on me, and I'm just like, are you fucking serious? Yeah, like, are you? And anyway, I end up launching that dude a little ways down the bar. Anyway,
Nice.
and on the second one, I'm on a security detail.
Was that the night I was with you at Shot?
Yeah, at the Hard Rock. Were you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he has a witness to this story. It's not
Yeah,
made up.
literally, I was like
It's
launching
legit.
that dude, right? And like Marty and a couple other people like, no, let's get out of here. Like, you know, security showed up, and I'm like, hey, look, here's what happened. You know, I wasn't even tore up at that point. Long story short, you know, you have that level of security dudes that just want to bow up and think they're tough, and you know, they find these guys at the gym. They're the part-time security dudes that people hire coming into Vegas, the shit show. They're bringing their own professionals. That would never happen. They would realize and see pretty quickly that I am absolutely I'm no liability to them and no threat. So fast forward to the other one, is working with casinos and things of that nature. I go in, I'm doing security, plainclothes protection for a billionaire asset. They got a meeting there. He gets his penthouse or whatever at this certain hotel resort. And I go, and so when I get my client in the room, I go down to get a meeting with the head of security to identify myself, who my client is, so I can gain an asset in that casino, right, and have more than just me watching my back. And introduce myself to the head of security, and I request permission. I have my CCW for Nevada, and I got it badged and whatever, right? So, but I'm asking permission to do this from them. And he goes, well, are you going to be in uniform? And I look down, I'm like, I'm in uniform.
About 10 minutes.
I'm like, absolutely not. He's like, you cannot carry in my casino like that. You know, if I catch you, I'm going to make you take it to the car. I was like, oh, whoa, bloodbath. Whoa. Don't get hostile here. So what do? I'm like, hey, I appreciate your time. You know, I'm still going to do my job. So I make it very noticeable, and not make a scene, but I make it very noticeable that I'm going to leave the hotel, go out to the car, and put my gun away. And I put it in my computer bag and walked right back in. And never got caught. But I'm still going to do my damn job, right? Still going to do my job. And then you have others that are totally cool with it, right? So this person, this venue, this resort guy was just not going to have it. But so you can have assets and you can have liabilities depending on where you're at. And I'd say Vegas is one of the hardest. It's so hit and miss on that. Still got a job to do. I'm still going to do my job. But are you going to make me take it to the car twice? Steps in.
Frankly, if you're a director of security and you're that big a piece of shit that you're trying to hamstring the celebrity security guy on carrying his gun, and he's actually a pro, you know, there's a real hot place in hell for you. Somebody needs to beat you to death with a rubber hose.
Yeah. I did my best. I was like very polite and everything, but I still got my job done. I just carried a computer bag with a gun.
My very acute opinion on directors of security.
So give us a Dolly story, Brian.
Well, I'll have to say my least favorite things to do with Dolly are award shows. Award shows are dangerous. They're fast, they're high tempo. There's a lot of moving parts on the stage. There's a lot of overhang and a lot of overhead dangers from falling props to stage rigs and stages being slid out onto the stage at fast pace. And you know, that's why Bret Michaels got crushed on stage, was because he didn't have a proper security guy looking out for him. And furthermore, the producers certainly don't like a security guy looking out for the star on the stage. You know, they look at it as a problem. They're worried about you being in the camera shot, although you're very aware of not being in the camera shot. So there's that kind of thing and that kind of complication. You see that at a lot of live music tapings and award shows. So, but, and, you know, we've had all kinds of issues and things like that with Dolly. But the one overwhelming thing you see working with her is that you do get received better than you do when you're with, say, a heavy metal band or a rap band. You know, the hotel expects the heavy metal band to tear the room up. The venue expects the rappers to have their own guns. So there's that kind of nature to it, and you do get received better typically when you're working with somebody like Dolly, but you still run into folks that want to have a dick measuring contest with you right there as you're showing up for the day after you've already advanced things, and somebody in the security apparatus of whoever your host is decides they want to flip the script and change things up a little bit. That happens. And, that's a complication. But even then, you've got to be kid gloves about it. You certainly don't yank somebody up in front of her or anything like that. It's a diplomatic process, and you've got to deal with it. So, it's a constant thing that you've kind of got to modulate as a security guy.
Kid Rock could have used some before Will Smith beat him down.
You mean Chris Rock, not Kid
Chris
Rock.
Rock.
Chris Rock. Come on, Jim.
Kid Rock would have.
But hey, going to what you were saying, Brian, as far as reading people or dealing with things, a lot of people say, read the room.
Yep.
People know that, but also you need to read the people.
Right.
When you're going in and this security manager, all right, this guy's going to be an asset or he's going to be a liability. How do I want to use them? How much information do I want to share? Because, I've experienced in my past, we've had a side entrance that we've used, but somebody from the venue or hotel security shared that info because why were people at that side entrance with cameras and ready? I'm like, there's nobody knew about this except for me and the one other guy. And I told the driver as we were driving, because it was and so I'm like, there's no way somebody let that go, and you got to be careful.
TMZ knows that. The TMZ paparazzi, those guys know that. They're good at their job, and they network just like we do. They do in advance. They do networking and intelligence collection just like we do. Some of them are really good at it. The good ones will listen to the security guy. When we're in New York, I make a point and have made a point over the years with the paparazzi to let them know, hey, when we show up at a location, if we're showing up at 30 Rock, we obviously at 30 Rock, you've got a long walk. You've got to walk in public to get to the spot. There's no way to drive into the building. That's just kind of the nature of working there in New York on that location. And the paparazzi will chase you. But over the years, I've told them, if you'll just wait down here, I will show back up as soon as I get her safe into the building. I'll come back and I'll collect all your memorabilia that you'd like to have signed, and I'll take it back up to her and I'll have it signed, and I bring it back out to them, and everything's signed and everybody's happy. And then I don't have folks chasing me around. And
that's a masterclass move in managing expectations of them and controlling that fever pitch. That's a brilliant move because now they know that you can manage their expectations. They're not trying to rush and bum rush her to get this maybe a signature, right? And you've given them a standard, right? You're telling them what you're going to do and what you expect of them, and that's a brilliant move.
And they cooperate and they play ball with that, and it's how you keep from having a Princess Diana moment.
Yeah, and you also learn how to when you get more into this job is nobody wants everybody sees the bodybuilder musclehead guy like I'm a bouncer, I'll crack heads in a minute. I don't want that guy. I want the dude that can think on their feet, de-escalate a situation and know when to escalate, how to do it, and then with the timing of it. As an example, being able to get that's a little overzealous and overreaching their grounds, and you get them a little tap in the junk, boom, and they're like looking at you, and you just kind of wink and smile at them, and they're immediately thinking about something else. You didn't belt them through the face, but you definitely took care of what you needed to take care of. You pulled the gun and put it in their head. It's like being able to do that to continue to do your job, make your client look good, and provide that level of security. And when you do have to escalate, you're paid. Your background in your profession, the previous profession, I think is why you're hired at this level, or our backgrounds. If you have to go to that nuclear option, you know how to handle it and manage it, and not have that panic mode where you can't holster your pistol because you just short circuited and you are beyond your limits. And you maybe know who I'm considering talking about at that.
Yeah.
Which is a bigger concern, the paparazzi or the fans?
That's a tough one.
I think the correct answer there is the unknown contact. It's kind of like Craig Douglas of ShivWorks says, it's a process of managing unknown contacts, and really everybody you're dealing with, if they're not part of your entourage, if they're not part of your security team, even if they're part of the host security team, they can be an unknown contact that you have to manage and deal with, possibly, potentially as an adversary. You never know what you're going to get. You never know who's working there. A lot of these folks that work in venues are fans. A lot of the paparazzi are fans. So, but on the same token, the fan is the boss. The fan, in a lot of ways, is the job. You have to take care of those folks. The client is there to see them. They are there to see the client. And, without the fans, you don't have a job either. So it's a very precarious situation, but you have to be good to the fans so that, especially in the music industry really, really values their fans. And you'll see it, especially in the heavy metal world. You will never find more cordial security people than at the highest levels of the heavy metal world. Metallica, Slipknot, etc. Those guys always have, they treat the fans right. They treat them with cordiality. They're complete gentlemen with those folks, unless they have to be, hands on. And even then,
it's time to not be nice.
It's still kid gloves.
Yeah. We had a scenario, if you will. I was out with that pop star, so it was Taylor Swift, and we all were armed, right? And it's like, and then there was a decision made by management that if you're going to be armed near the stage, that you need to wear a fanny pack, so there's no way your pistol can fall out if you have to get on stage. And the mandate was 0 tolerance on anybody getting on stage. I'm like, game on, right? I'm in on this one, right? But now I have to wear a fanny pack. I'm like, I hate to be, usually it sounds stupid, but I'm a trained freaking professional. You hired me for a job. I've got a holster that fits my gun, right? Fanny pack. And I said, and there was like they were going to be embarrassed if our pistol fell out while we're disengaging a rabid fan on stage. And I'm like, what's more embarrassing, me maybe dropping my gun, which ain't going to happen, or me front kicking a 17-year-old gay kid straight off stage? It's like, let's look at the fan base. And it became kind of a joke.
You get that $100,000 bonus?
Yeah. I'm pretty sure I'm going to just get destroyed on social media for front kicking something. Not a pistol fell out on stage, which was never going to happen. But
he didn't hear what I said.
Yeah,
I said, did you get that $100,000 bonus? You said,
yeah, that was after my time. Dang it.
No. So, my girlfriend's son works for Taylor. He's like does stage setup or something. I don't know exactly what he does, but he got that $100,000 bonus. I was like, rrr. So it looks like we lost Andrew.
Well, he is a spook, so he just ghosted.
He did. He did what spooks do. So maybe he'll join us back. But I know you guys are short on time, and I want to get to your thoughts on what happened this past weekend on the Trump assassination attempt. And let's kind of dissect it a little bit and maybe give people a little better idea of maybe what happened, what didn't happen, and to the extent that I don't know how closely you guys have been following this. I haven't been following it that much. I mean, I've been listening here and there a little bit. I've been really trying to watch like the CNN side of things and seeing what they're saying, and what their take is on it. But if you haven't heard, there was an assassination attempt on Donald Trump this past weekend. And it was a miracle that he's not, brain splatter everywhere. So I don't really know where to start other than maybe just kind of throw it to you guys and kind of get your take. Everything I'm seeing is look like somebody has fucked up royally. To get a 20-year-old kid, who, I mean, and we're still waiting on all the information to come out on this kid, but didn't know his ass from a hole in the ground, was able to get this close and get that many shots off. for one.
It's a cascade of so many ways.
Yeah.
Epic proportions at that level.
Yeah, I think
On
So-
many- yeah,
too,
at that level,
like,
many levels.
It's ultimately we all know it's a failure because there was shot fired, he was hit, and that's unacceptable. You know, there was a failure. Who exactly is the failure? I don't think it's any one thing. You know, there's multiple variables that goes on. I think for me and the job like we've done and we do, or what I've seen when I've worked with the, you know, Secret Service in the past, is the advance. You need good advance. And I don't know every little detail about the advance. I wasn't there at this event, but I don't think it was done well enough. And then they didn't cover, you know, the circles and the bubbles just weren't big enough. And there shouldn't have been any way that anybody could get on a roof. That should all have been
Point
covered.
blank. That should have never even been a thing. And like Andrew's saying, it's failed on many levels. But if you even back it up a bit beyond this venue or the event, it starts with the training, the selection of Secret Service agents, the level of their training, and even at that level, who do you think's got the number one team? Right, the president, and then you have the next level of dudes, and then the next all the way down to the uniformed officers at the gates of the White House. Right. So, what level of training and quality of agents did a former president and candidate get, as opposed to, you know, the A team, if you will, that surrounds the president? So there is a lack of, from what I can see in the videos I've seen, there's a lack of training, a lack of concern. Even from what I've read, is they knew about this guy 20 minutes prior. And I say they, like the Secret Service agents, whoever, whether the advanced agents, probably not the inner ring guys that are around the president or the former president, but there was information being shared from assets on the ground, and it was basically just blown off. And even the counter sniper teams were aware of this guy on the roof with plenty of time to send some sort of asset security armed officer to that area to figure out what was going on and not even have to fire shots. How did it even get that far is the massive question. And where was the
So I'm hearing that they knew about this guy. They were made aware of him 20, 30 minutes before.
Yeah. And nothing happened, not removed from the venue, anything. How does that happen? How do you not de-escalate a potential situation long before it ever gets to that position? And again, an armchair quarterback stuff, you just happen to have some assets on your show tonight that actually.
Well, that's exactly what we're doing. I mean, we are Monday morning armchair quarterbacking this, and that's all we can do at this point because none of us were there. I don't know that any of you guys have talked to anybody that was there. Maybe you have.
No.
But I mean, that's all we can go by. And based on the information that we're getting, you know, we're trying to take in good and filter out the bad. And that's why, you know, I wanted to have you guys on here and, you know, just start off with that and say that, you know, this guy was identified at least 20 minutes before the shooting occurred at the front gate with a spotting scope, walking around with a spotting scope.
There's video of it. I just watched the video of him walking around the same building that he shot from with a rangefinder, looking through the scope. And apparently, by virtue of numerous interviews now, it would seem that the building that the shooter took the shot from had a local SWAT team inside the building.
Inside, right.
Inside the building.
Not on top of it, denying access to any elevated position.
Right.
Sadly to say, you know, EP 101. You know.
So the graphic that I've got up here is where the shooter was at, and then his angle to the stage, and then behind the building, the warehouses that you see, where the shooter was located. You know, there's a parking lot area there, and they were calling this the staging area for the, you know, the local police and whatnot. But inside that building, supposedly there was some law enforcement, a team. I don't know if they were snipers or, you know, what they were, but there was nobody on the outside, apparently, and there was a ladder for this guy to get up to perch himself up there. Now, I've heard stories that he went to Lowe's and he bought a ladder
Yeah,
I don't know
heard AC unit that he climbed up and everything else too, and sniper rifle. I mean, very generic on that term. Come on, man.
I've heard AR-15 style. You know, a
And
lot of times.
What are you guys hearing on the distance? I'm seeing 400 feet from shooter spot to the stage.
130 to 150 yards is what I'm hearing.
Yeah, I've heard 152.
Yeah.
But the other thing is you can't secure a building from inside the building. Like
No.
that's a rookie mistake. Like you're just sitting in there, like you don't know what's going around. You can't see through walls and everything. Like you know, you got four sides. I mean, every operation I was in with the military or doing anything, you want to secure a structure, you're on all sides of the structure. You're not just sitting in there. So there's a lot of things that just, I think that's complacency. You know, people get lazy, and I don't know if anybody's read The War on Warriors with Pete Hegseth, that a book just came out, and he's spot on with what's been happening with the military and how equality and certain people have to be in certain positions to be fair. And you know what? If you can't do the job, you can't do the job. You know, I feel bad for that woman. I mean, she's not tall enough to be a human shield or block, and she obviously fumbled, couldn't handle the stress, but like she shouldn't be there. And that's nothing against her. If you have a client that's over 6 feet tall, you cannot be in that position where you're the human shield and be in the body armor and protecting and huddling up around the client. Like you can't do that. You shouldn't be there. And those are the things that get overlooked. And I think that's.
Well, it's not just the one. There was.
Oh no, yeah, it's not.
Female
diversity. There is absolutely zero place for that in the Secret Service. Honestly, if you're protecting national assets, leaders of our country, diversity is not a thing. It's best person for the job. I don't care color, race, religion. Best person for the job. Period.
Exactly.
There's no room for that. It's just that's how people get killed, man. You know, this isn't elementary education or something. You know, where hey, fine, right? You know.
Yeah, I think that's what a lot of people are losing sight on is that it's not necessarily that the Secret Service is trying to meet a quota of 30% women. It's just that they're not filling the quota with qualified people.
Yeah, make no mistake. Women belong in the executive security realm. They're required. You have to have them for certain things, for certain clients, for certain jobs. But you've got to have a certain type of woman, before we start jumping to the conclusion that the frogs are gay. We need to look at, a 30% DEI hiring on these sisters that can't get their holster over their fupa.
Yeah. And there's no like that. Like he said, I have a couple of female friends in this business that are just absolute beasts. I mean, they're extremely good at their job, but they have a specific job they're doing, right?
Yeah, and if the guy was 5'4" and fat and out of shape, he shouldn't be there. That's not. It doesn't matter, Like you can do a simple football analogy. You got your quarterback, Tom Brady or whoever. Pick somebody, and you're going to put a small little lineman to protect him and block. No, you're going to have the biggest, strongest, beefiest dude up there on that line that's going to protect him. And we should be running everything like that across the board: Secret Service, military, everywhere.
Well, and that goes to the private sector, us private sector guys that used to be in and used to be something special. A lot of us, start getting fat when we get in the private sector, and we start losing those marksmanship skills when we get in the private sector. So it's essential, that you keep up on those skills, that you stay fit, that you're capable, and furthermore, having a team, you've got to train with that team. If you're going to be running an outfit, they have to be seamless. They have to be capable on an evacuation, on a motorcade, on an attack on principle. It's essential that they constantly have that familiarity with each other and how each other moves and reacts and smells and feels.
And if you are getting to that, I'm in my 50s now, man. I'm not doing those type of details anymore because I'm not going to keep up with the dudes that are coming out of the military and at 30 years old and 5% body fat. I take a lower risk job so that I don't become a liability to my client. I still have a boatload of knowledge, 30 plus years of knowledge and experience behind this and avoiding contacts, but I'm not going to go run 2 miles behind a motorcade. That sure as the hell ain't happening.
That's right.
So another thing is, again, 20 to 30 minutes before they've identified this guy, he's walking around, they lose sight of him. And then I think it was like 3 to 4 minutes before that, there's video of this too, and that's the great thing about cell phones is everybody's got a cell phone and, they're videoing this. So there's no telling how many different angles they've got of this and probably things that we'll never see. But, they're pointing it out. It's like, hey, this guy's on the roof. Plenty of time for law enforcement to, that's on the ground down there to do something.
Well, how you slice it, they let this guy take a shot before they engaged him. And I mean, that's the big deal here. Whether there was a miscommunication or it was a lack of deconfliction or whatever it was that caused that problem, they were looking at that guy and observing him and let him take a shot before they engaged him. So, take it for what it is. I don't know if it's a conspiracy or if it's just a lack of
poor decision making.
Poor decision making, lack of deconfliction, lack of
just the fact that this guy was able to get up on that rooftop that close, that place wasn't locked down, 360 degrees and up and down is just baffling. But I think what we're going to find out is that this wasn't just, a fluke that happened that day, that this is something that has been building with this agency over the last few years. And again, it has nothing to do with the females or, their diversity hiring, whatever it may be. It's that they haven't been hiring the right people, and the incompetence that has infiltrated and been allowed to come into that agency, and not just that agency, but I think that's where we're going to find. Ultimately, this has been happening and built up over the last few years is why this has happened.
Yeah. Daniel, Daniel may be able to speak a little bit to this on Trump's security detail, but it's my understanding, and I've heard this, I don't know if it's true, that Donald Trump actually retains a lot of his former private security guys that operate and move with the Secret Service detail now and at his homes, etc.
Yeah, he's got some of his own guys that he trusts, that he's worked with for a while. Like we all know, with our clients, you build trust and rapport with them. And that's why they keep you around, because they feel safe. He's got that. And I will say, the Secret Service I've worked with have been stellar and amazing. I think what happens a lot of times, though, is they're traveling around the country. And then when they go to one state, they get augmentees and they get people. So like you talked about, team needs to work together. They know how to communicate, shoot, move, all the different things. Well, when you have bunch of newbies to your team, yeah, they might be trained up, but they don't know what you're doing, your SOPs and whatnot. So you're all playing catch up. That's why I think the Advon was really lacking, because the team needed to get together prior. And I think the other thing that we've just keyed on is the dissemination of information. If I heard there was a threat to my client out there, somebody doing something, or I've heard that before, I go out the hotel and I will go out and confront that person before I will let the client move and go out. If they had 20 minutes, like there's a guy with a rangefinder or something weird going on, they should have called back and been like, hey, hold up. We got something squirrely going on. We need to figure this out before letting your client be exposed. I think that probably is one of the biggest things, if that works out to be true. I wasn't there on the ground. I don't know the calls that went over the radio, but there's absolutely witnesses that say they were reporting that individual climbing up on the roof and going up there to the police and to Secret Service minutes prior to the shootings. That as soon as that happened, hey, we got a situation, boom, over the radio, that should be flying through everybody's ears. And then, all right, pause. Somebody goes over to the president, hey, or whatnot. And I think that was probably one of the, if not the biggest failure.
So you think they should have jerked him as soon as they were aware that there's something screwy going on here? They should have went ahead and pulled him off the stage.
Yeah, if there was something at that level, like someone with a range finder going on the roof, like I know it's
been a local asset.
Weird, but
being on that dude immediately. Like there should have been a local asset, uniform cop with it armed, going and getting face to face with this kid and being like, "Hey, what's up? Why did that not happen?" Like,
well, they said that another one boosted one up, and he peeked up over, and then the kid, I guess confronted him, and then he fell down or jumped down or whatever. Instead of
ask Marty too. The Clintons don't subscribe to your podcast, do they? Because if so, I need this scrubbed.
he's insulting the Clintons. Yeah. So yes, I think, and I've heard different opinions on this, is that, once that alert went up, it was like, hey, we've got an unknown going on here. They should have pulled him, secured him, and then, figured out what was going on. And then if everything's okay, then, put him back on stage. But, even after that, so the guy gets the shot off, Trump gets miraculously turns his head. Again, the bullet was in flight as he's turning his head and clips his ear instead of, popping his brain. And then now he's down. What's your guys' opinion on them just sitting there holding him instead of getting him off the X?
Yeah, why? Why did you move him? Even if you get him behind the stage, out of line of fire, like you immediately start moving, and that's planned. There's already a brief on which way. If this happens, you're going off stage this direction. If the fire comes from that direction, we're going to go this way. There's secondary, tertiary plans for that. For any cardinal direction, that there might be an engagement. So to just body.
Yeah, I'm watching that, and I'm like, why aren't they moving him? Why
shoot him?
Yeah, movement is golden.
Get moving. Have your middle ring figure out what's going on. And
we've already pointed out the fact that the girls
you're facing out looking for that engagement.
Yeah, and we pointed out that the agents that were there were too short. They should have had taller agents. He was exposed. Do you let him do the fist pump? Or are you just are you tucking him down? And because at that point isn't that your primary goal? He's like, you're not listening to what he said. You're getting them and moving them, and you take, at that point, you're in charge, right? And
yes, but from what we're seeing in there is there didn't appear to be, they weren't in charge.
They didn't know what the fuck was going on.
Yeah, I hate to say it, man. And it was like JV football, playing in the NFL. Like there was people just open mouth breathing, and their circuits were frying because they didn't have the level of training or the length of training or reviews of training, SOPs, rehearsals. That's what it appeared like to me. Is there was no data. That the rainbow wheel was just spinning, and they were just like they didn't know what to do because they hadn't done it enough. I don't think he had I was shocked. I got to put it that way because again, the Secret Service is the gold standard in protection, right?
Completely shocked.
You had this JV scene appear. So I think like what Daniel was saying, there was an augmented team. There might have been some local assets from the area that were put in suits. I'm not sure that was a full blown Secret Service team.
Yeah, possibly some Homeland Security guys augmenting the detail. It's a shame. I'd hate to be in those guys' situation, to be quite honest.
Yeah. Well,
I want to go with the complacency too. I mean, and when I say that, I'm not just saying these people are like, oh, they don't care, but you're downrange, you're patrolling, you're driving this road, you've driven it a million times, nothing's ever happened or whatnot. And you're like, yeah, we're going out to this checkpoint, or, oh, we're rolling to pick up mail, or, you just kind of like, how many shows and things have they done and not really have an incident? So they just like, oh, this is another walk in the park. This wasn't a huge rally. This is in the heartland of America, Pennsylvania. He's got a lot of supporters. They probably didn't view the threat super bad. So they're just kind of like going through another day at the office, so to speak. And I know myself and my team, we would always like, hey, things are too easy, too nice. Something's going to go wrong. Always. Every time you start to feel comfortable, that's when you need to like really get your spidey senses going on. And I think they haven't had anything that's really tested them in a while, and things have just been going smooth. So they got lackadaisical. That's a guess, but it's what happens, human nature, you know, and you have to be trained in a way that you don't let that happen to yourself. You need to be at that level, like Jim's saying, when you're that top notch, like you can't let that happen. You can't get complacent.
Every time you go out, shit's going to go off. That's how you should approach it. Every time you go out, something's going to happen, and you got to be ready. When my teams would roll out the gate, I mean, last thing we'd say before we hit that gate is head on a swivel, man, because today we get hit. And you got to be expecting it. Because if you don't, you're behind the 8-ball, and you may not survive it. So,
yeah.
Let's do this. And another, before I get into the listener questions, another thing that shocked and amazed me were the grandstands behind him. How few people took cover or tried to evacuate. Is like everybody's just standing there and they're trying to get a viral video or picture or something. And there's this one dude, he's like in black and he's got like this little black hat on. He kind of looks like, one of the Traveling Woolberries or what's that band that he's just like standing there like, nothing's going on. That amazed me more than anything, is just the people in the stands and around that were just like standing up, looking around.
That is because, well, I think a bunch of it is I look at the human nature and the human brain thing is it's like it's always seeking data to elicit a response from you, right? Fight, flight, or flinch, that type of thing, or freeze. And if you don't have that data, that information, or been exposed to something before, or you're in a very a situation like that where the scene itself is very upbeat, up tempo. What is that? Have you ever heard gunfire before? Or are you just, is that part of the show because you're so enamored with what's going on that the brain shuts that stuff off and you don't have a fight response or a flight response? You just freeze because you don't know what to do. And I've seen that in several people.
Yeah, and I've watched the video a few times, and there are some people that flinched when the shot went off, but then again, I think they just don't. Is that fireworks? Is that whatever? But then the Secret Service comes in and they're tackling him and they take him down, and people are still sitting there, and
they just don't know what to do.
They just and they're just they're looking around, and then people are saying shooter, a guy with a gun, and I don't know. It's crazy, but I was trying to find that picture of the guy. He's right here. And he's standing up the whole time. Just like, what's going on?
Yeah.
What's going on here?
This is going to go viral on my IG.
He doesn't even have a phone. He's just standing there looking like he's high as a kite. I don't know, but Andrew was trying to join us. His phone died, which I told you guys, plug your phones in before we did this. But he's trying to get back on. And go ahead, Brian. I'm going to pull up listener questions while you're responding to that.
Jim, I'm interested in what your expertise would be on the short distance that these counter snipers were dealing with, as far as looking through the scope, looking over the scope. How do you perceive how they were digesting this situation at such a short range through scoped rifles?
They're probably running low power variables on that stuff. They're probably not running high power optics on that. And in saying that could be a 5 to 25. It could be a 4 to 18. I'm guessing they probably had anywhere from a 3 to 4 to 18 power scope on that. So you can mag down pretty low to be able to assess it, and not be overpowered for it. And how there was not the guarantee they got a range card, man. How was that building? It's like they got a range card. I know exactly how far, because that's
already been verified. They had distances at all the different points.
I'm a sniper up there. I've got that whole place just ranged out. Like, I already know my and there's not even dope at 150 yards. But
nice.
We use a range card on all of our details, and most especially with venues. And typically, we're not running any kind of counter sniper asset, but we do, by virtue of giving us some sort of idea of where to avoid, what the problem areas are, and given just a real sense of what the world is around you. I think card is an essential thing for an advance, and we have it on every single one that we do.
Absolutely. That's a known distance with an immediate response. And there should have been, personally and professionally, there should have been glass on that roof before the former president even hit the venue, there should have been eyes on that. If my counter sniper team's going in, hours before, that is a known position of elevation that a shot could potentially come from. You've got eyes on it. You've ranged it. You've got glass on it. Looking at that stuff. That doesn't mean you have glass on it and eyes on it for the entire duration. But then you also got a heads up that there's this chucklehead freaking up on there, and people sending. You got that information there. How long after his shots was the counter sniper shot? That I don't know.
I don't know an exact time, but it was fairly quick.
Right. So which means,
I don't know if they. I don't know if they at this venue or on this detail, but there's a technology called Evolve, the Evolve machine. You've probably seen it when you've gone into Bridgestone Arena or the hockey game or the Ryman Auditorium. You'll see the big Evolve machine that you walk into. And Evolve over the last few years has developed a new technology that goes up on a pole, and that can sit in parking lots, can sit in a field, and it can scan an area, a huge area. And anytime it sees a weapon presented, it immediately starts shooting out alerts to the communication system of the security asset.
Wow.
So I don't know if that is something that was used on that detail, but I'm sure Secret Service has that technology, and it's something about. But even then, you've got a communication issue. It has to, that notification has to go down the line to get to the folks that can actually consume and act on that data.
Yeah, and if you're in a counter sniper role and I'm on that roof as a counter sniper, I'm continuing to scan, and how long was that guy on the roof, and I have a dedicated spot that's known high ground, I'm probably paying more attention to that than just the average crowd. In glassing that, just looking for any potential, people coming up on there. And then if I notice it, I don't have to shoot, but I immediately call an asset to that middle or outer ring to put somebody on them. Like, hey, I got a guy doing this. Go check it out. If you do look at a celebrity security or like a band security, you tap the dude in the yellow shirt and say, hey, dude, take care of that, right? While I stay up here and continue to cover.
Yep.
And that just didn't happen, which, again, baffles me at that level. Like, literally, you guys are the industry standard.
Or it took too long to happen, because it did kind of happen, but they were slow.
Could have been related, absolutely.
Slow rolling it, or like people, what, huh? Who's where and what? Like, it should be like boom, boom, boom.
The counter sniper team may have said that, and relayed the information, and it died somewhere in between. I'd be interested in what that happened, how that happened.
I mean, there's a lot of questions that need to be answered.
Not available. I'm married. I'm happy. I was not a SEAL.
All right, let's do some listener questions here. Come out and play. What research or testing has been done with drones for counter sniper terrorism tactics? Briefcase drones have come a long way, and with all the field use we've seen in Ukraine, seems like an FPV with small payloads could be effective, albeit not the cleanest countermeasure. I mean, recon would be great with drones.
Yeah, I don't see them using a drone with a payload at a convention.
Yeah.
You got that go boy in the back.
It would be recon eyes only. You're not gonna,
Yeah, like it just fails and calls the crowd. Yeah, that'd be a bad day. I don't see that happening with that type of setup, but that doesn't mean they're not a valuable asset, especially on the recce stuff, or non-payloaded one that you could have an additional eye up there to a command vehicle that can get more eyes on that and have communication with everybody else. Like, hey, drones pick this thing up, or this person, this individual, that's suspect at this location, send uniformed police, stuff like that. Sure, absolutely.
And what about like motion sensors in detectors too? Wouldn't that been something great to put on top of that build? Is like, okay, maybe we don't have it manned, but we could put some countermeasures up there, like motion detection. If somebody breaches the ladder that's over there or whatever, then we get a notice or whatever. I mean, I haven't heard of any of that kind of technology being used for this.
I think they covered that, and you guys please pitch in with your counter sniper, your counter action assault team, like your CAT team guys, eyes up on their people in positions to overwatch the venue. I think they had that covered. I think it really just comes into communication on that, like them to put that type of stuff up there. I don't know that they would consider that in that type of environment. Not a bad idea though.
Technology can sometimes be more of a complication and create a lot of fog and a lot of confusion for how that data gets collated down the flagpole for dissemination. It's a process that everybody's got to get keyed up to, when it may just be as simple as keying your Motorola and putting it out on the net.
Yeah, I agree. Technology, sometimes everybody wants this wazoo tech stuff, but batteries die, or a sensor will give a false alarm. Say there's a bird that lands on the roof, and all of a sudden now you're shutting things down because some sensor tripped or whatnot. There's nothing like, a trained professional with eyes on. They needed more of that.
All right, next question. Gerald Link, the event is unimaginable for the level of professionalism that is supposed to be given. Had the pleasure of or misfortune of doing PSD work on my last deployment overseas for our squadron commander and command sergeant major. There was good times and long hours. Many times we would go into a place with no prior chance to clear the area or depend on the local police or military to have done this. What a problem this was all the time. So maybe he just wants you guys to comment on your experience with that.
That's more like a statement there, and good on them for doing the security stuff. Yeah, that's when you got to rely on your training and be non-complacent, right? Go in there expecting a fight and be watching and be on the same sheet of music with your team. That's life-saving.
Yeah, I agree with him as far as, doing that. You're going to go into areas that, when you're in the military and you're going to meet with this governor or different stuff, you weren't able to be there ahead of time. But you know what? This is the United States. That's the Secret Service. They can advance a week ahead of time, 48 hours, 72 hours. Like, I'm sorry for that. There's no excuse as not doing enough advance, to know every potential threat in the building. That is not that big of an area. I mean, volume wise, but there's not like 15-story buildings with, 10 rows of windows across each one and locking down. Like, that was not the most complex problem. They should have been able to lock that down with the proper advance team.
Yeah, I mean, given the the area that they had, and I was trying to find a picture of it here. Here's a picture of it here. I mean, there's not that many buildings that you really needed to lock down and have covered. You got some tree lines, but again, we could sit here and Monday morning quarterback this to death. There's a picture of the area there and the stage and the different buildings that were around. But there was also, I've heard reports that, they were requested again, and I know this probably happens all the time, more security detail, and they were refused to get additional security detail there.
Well, that's where you start relying on your local assets, your law enforcement, first responders, things like that you can put in the field with them. We do that quite a bit, like that extra ring of security, or and having that, especially with a presidential candidate, like what law enforcement is turn that down, right? So, but that guy's question is that he's saying, well, if we had to go in basically in the blind, that's where you absolutely have to rely on your training, your team, your rehearsals, your SOPs, your tactics, techniques, and procedures, so that you don't, because you're already behind the 8 ball a little bit. So that's all you have, right?
Yeah.
And be able to respond quickly, identify potential threats, de-escalate, and or get out of the area, avoid the threat altogether, because you don't always get the opportunity to say, no, we're not doing it.
But what about the other potential presidential candidates? Kennedy has requested for, months a security detail, and they've refused him every time until this has happened, and then they've just suddenly have granted him his protection.
How much is that man worth?
assassinated family in America. You know.
Yeah. How much does he
mean,
work?
his dad was it his dad? His dad was assassinated. His uncle was
Dad-
assassinated.
I would already have security. I've got that kind of money. I'm buying my own security team. It's like, what training you want? What training you had? Like when you're at that level of like FU money, if you will, like you
I have no doubt he probably did. But the fact that he requested it and he was denied many times is just again, it speaks a lot to the conspiracy theories that go, with this administration and what they're doing. But next question, tongue for twisting. What type of life do you have to live day to day? Talking about you guys as executive protection agents, after work, or is everyday work even when off?
Every day's work. When you're working, you're working.
Every day, no doubt.
Professionalism, and I'll be the first one to raise my hand and say I've stepped over that line before. Like, hey, I got off work, have a couple beers, and then guess what? You get a phone call. Hey, we're moving. We're going out. You're like, damn. So now it's a lifestyle. When I'm on the road or I'm traveling, I'm working. There's no drinking. I make sure I'm in bed when I need to be in bed. If I got how much sleep I need to get. And when they're going to get up, because I'm going to get up and get a workout in, or I'm going to be up and checking things prior to. I'll go out, start looking for fans hanging around the front of the hotels, things of that nature, and I will have all my shit taken care of. And then I watch a lot of Netflix, play some video games, spend a lot of time in my room, just being ready to go. Like that's the job, that is the lifestyle. You can F it up. Right?
I mean, be honest. The movie with Kevin Costner, The Bodyguard, that's really what got you into this, right?
Yeah. Then I want to do the Denzel thing, but I don't speak Spanish.
But there's a connection with Dolly, though, the Bodyguard.
I told you before, I think on the other episode, about my encounter with Kevin Costner.
I don't know. Tell us again. I don't think you did.
Yeah, we were moving Dolly to the Lowe's Vanderbilt Plaza, doing. I think we were doing the Red Hat Lady convention, and we're on one of the upper floors. We're taking her from the hotel room to the event area, the event ballroom, and as we go down the hallway, as we're moving down the hallway, this guy pops out of his hotel room door. And he's wearing scruffy jeans and a scruffy button-up shirt, like a plaid shirt, and he's got 12 o'clock shadow, and he immediately makes a move for Dolly, just rushes up on Dolly, and I grab him, and he kind of resists a little bit, and I kind of throat pinch him up against the wall, and as I make eye contact, I look at him, and it's Kevin Costner, and I said, "Man, you should have known better. You're the bodyguard."
You're the bodyguard.
He was like,
That's
"Man,
great.
so sorry. I just wanted to say hi to Miss Dolly." And Dolly was screaming at me, "Let it go. It's Kevin." And so that happened. Yep.
It's like material for you to use for the movie, Kevin.
Yeah. Yeah.
I would like to make sure we answer that guy's question. And it is a lifestyle change. However, if your lifestyle is, that security thing, getting your training, going and eating healthy or whatever it may be, even if you're not eating healthy, but knowing that your timeline is based around their timeline, right? Being on time, being on target, being ready to go prior to them. You don't really have a life beyond that. You're not going to go out and go see a movie, or go an hour away to do something else, right? You're in the vicinity. And
not going to run to Starbucks and get a coffee. And
you can, but you better make sure your timeline is tight and you don't go to the one across town. You know what I mean? I'll give you an example. Like if I got up in the morning on the New York City gig, I knew my client would be up and moving and doing things at a certain time. That was his standard. I would make sure my training was done. I got invited to go to a gym across Manhattan. I wouldn't go across Manhattan because I'd have to get. What if something happened? I got to get back. Plans change. You go. Hey, guess what? The Starbucks is 10 miles away. You're going to get whatever coffee shop is 2 blocks away. Does that make sense? So there is some give and take on that, but it's not a complete forfeiture of your life, if you will, in lifestyle.
I might add, living on a tour bus is not for everybody. I've seen folks that were, complete studs that I thought were going to be the best security guy, the best venue guy ever, and they completely shit the bed on their 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, 12th night, showing up in a new town on a tour bus, living on a tour bus, sleeping on a tour bus while it's moving. It's not for everybody. And,
That's
it's
what's your home life.
a lot of folks
Yeah.
just can't. So.
Yeah,
Yeah,
if
living
you're
out of
married,
a suitcase. There were times I didn't even take my clothes out of the suitcase. I check into the hotel room. I drop my bag. We're moving, running, doing stuff. You're coordinating. And then like you put people to bed, and you're like, you know what? I got to roll in 3 hours. Guess what? Sleep's more important, so I can be awake and not be droning. I may brush my teeth, and that's it. That suitcase would be in that hotel and never even be opened up.
or if you're like me, you put something in the car and you need it. So I just leave everything in my suitcase. I never unpack the suitcase because I'll forget it.
Carry a stick of deodorant with you.
You can't go.
Yeah, no, it's absolutely a lifestyle. And when you're on, you're on. I always look at it as like when I'm doing the executive protection, it's like I'm deployed. You anytime the phone call, this or that, I'm in the hotel room adjacent to their hotel room or whatnot. Like you never know when there's going to be a knock on the door, and that's happened. I've been sitting on the toilet and somebody was banging. I'm like, my phone's. I'm like, damn, like
get off.
You got to be ready. You never know when things are going to happen, so you have to have that, awareness.
What kind of liability do you guys are you associated with you? If something happens to one of your principals, what kind of liability are you guys carrying for something like that?
A lot. It's expensive.
I carry a $2 million policy.
Yeah, and it goes up. It goes up every year. The more money you make, the more clients you have, the more the insurance company charges you for that policy. It can get very pricey, and it does, especially when you're dealing with executive protection, when you're dealing with celebrities. The numbers for the insurance policies go up substantially. As a matter of fact, a lot of the guys in the industry will require the artist to carry that insurance, and rather than their company, their security company carrying the insurance, we as a company, SAPS, we carry a policy for multi levels of things. So when you start getting into canines, explosive detection canines, protection canines, executive protection, celebrities, and venues that serve alcohol, you're dealing with more insurance. And then when you've got things like, say, you're going to go to a large award show, say or an NFL football event. Well, the NFL is going to require you and your team, if you're going to be armed in their venue, to present an insurance policy that specifically allocates that venue and the NFL in the policy.
If they let you carry in there, right?
If indeed, and it can take a lot of negotiation and a lot of configuring and liaison to get that done. We've experienced it numerous times, and it's a big part of what we do as SAPs is being able to manage that insurance policy.
And I will tell you, there's something to be said for that too. Is you get way more flies with honey than you do vinegar, right? So your personality, your charm, and your ability to make them feel important and like they're the ones coming up with the idea, that type of thing is an art, and you should be good at it, right? Because the last thing you typically do is pull your gun, but you're negotiating all the time, all day, every day, building those relationships and assets. So you need to be 10 times more charming than that pig on Green Acres.
And you've got to be really good at working with management. The management that you're dealing with has to be seamless to work with the security crew and have their interests at heart as well, because they're the ones that really start the negotiations on venues and things like that, and being able to let the venue know, hey, we're going to be coming in with a big security team and a big security footprint. So it's on them in a lot of ways to get that stuff done. So you've got to have good relationships there as well.
All right. Pulp Fiction reference, by the way, Jim Erwin, ladies and gentlemen. And I'm glad you brought up canines too, because that's why I wanted to have Andrew on here, because he's got a lot of canine experience. I was going to ask if are there any scenarios or situations where you guys would have a canine with you for Not overseas, obviously overseas. Yes, I get that, but here in America.
With Dolly, we use K9s exclusively for every event. We have explosive detection K9s that we use that are attached to her detail, and we use them regularly every day. We've used them this week. It's something that we in 2007 when we started using K9s, it was very much frowned upon, and we were given a lot of flack from venues and other artists, management. Everybody thought we were way overboard with our approach with K9s. But over the years, we've been able to show that this is exactly what's needed. And they're not just explosive detection K9s, they're arms and explosive detection K9s. So when we're in a meet and greet line and I run that dog down the meet and greet line, I'm pulling 4 or 5 pistols out of the line each event, by virtue of just mostly guys that have handgun carry permits or ladies that have a gun in their purse, and we make them take it back to the car, and that's the end of it. But it's something that's essential. I think is extremely valuable for an executive protection detail.
Sure. And just like Jim's got his own zoo detail back there. He's got cats and dogs and everything around.
I got 8 cats, 4 dogs, 4 horses, a couple cows, fish. But we used K9s in Iraq big time. The attack and bomb stuff for that too. Plus, Iraqis hated dogs, so it was even better. Just let them get a little up on the car and everything. Oh, they loved it. It was their favorite. And then we used them on the Taylor Swift detail as well for checking. So part of what I did, or a main part of what I did, was access control on that for like backstage stuff and then workers. It was 3 days to set up her stage. So we had 3 days of people coming in and building in these local crews. And so we were able to use those. We had, I think, 3 or 4 dogs on the 12 protection dudes and 3 or 4 dogs. But when we went overseas, we weren't able to take them. So we contracted usually local law enforcement to come in and do the same thing and use our assets over there. Big asset.
You had any experience with K9s, Daniel?
Yeah, I've had experience with K9s. We've, I was never a dog handler myself, but they've been attached, or we've worked with them and used them in screening. I mean, they're a great tool. Absolutely. And I do think a lot of it, though, it's the handler is what makes the dog too. I mean, they're all good because they have to have the relationship, but the ones that I've been really impressed with is just the way the handler can work the dog and how they can go through so many people and it's seamless, and they have a great bond, and it's amazing, the results that they can produce. Like Brian's saying, like he's pulling guns out of people's purses and whatnot. They don't have to go through metal detectors. Like the dog can do stuff like that. So if you have the ability to use one, or if you've ever considered like, should I have a working dog help me out with security? Definitely consider it, because they're a great asset.
Let's run through a couple more here, and then we'll wrap it up. AZ Gunzoo, do you regularly run drills and practice different scenarios with the clients or just the protection detail team members? Good question.
That's a very good question.
That's a great question. And it depends on the client.
No clients are like, absolutely not. When we were overseas, guess what, Ambassador? You're going to today, the first couple, or whatever, a diplomatic asset we have today, we're going to be doing rehearsals, and we need you to be a part of it. And then you tell a billionaire, hey, I'm going to throw you in the back of a car, and we're no, you're not.
No,
yeah, it is client dependent on that. Great question though. And if you have a client that is willing to do it, take advantage of it. That is an ultimate rehearsal, because you absolutely need them to be able to have that fight flight response. We don't want a freeze response. They need to be moving, and they need to know what is going to happen if something happens. And rehearsals are absolutely what set that base.
Yeah, and the client needs to know what's going to happen. So it's important to explain the situation and how that's going to work if indeed it does happen. You don't necessarily have to throw somebody into the back of a car or practice an evacuation drill with them, but just giving them the idea of what it's going to look like, what it's going to feel like, so that they can envision it before it actually happens.
Yeah, you don't just start hitting them with flashbangs.
Yeah, you got to at least do a talk through at every venue. Like, hey, we're going. This is the direction we're going. This is what's happening. You're going to see us or like. If you can do the rehearsals, great. But a lot of the times you're not going to be able to with the actual client. So you do rehearsals with all the moving pieces. So I do dry runs with drivers and things like that. So yeah, so that you do rehearse, and it is dependent and it's variable, with the client and where you're going. Sometimes you can only do a talk through because you haven't been on the ground yet.
Yep.
This is something I meant to ask earlier. When you're at like these award shows, you're at the like these concerts where there's multiple bands and whatnot, and you've got multiple security details, executive protection details. Are you ever bumping dicks with these guys, or how do you guys work with other people's security details?
Absolutely. It is dicks, right? Like, it usually ends up with who has the highest value client. So if we go like into the high threat stuff, if the main ambassadors dude or the 4-star generals there, everybody else's protection team takes a step down from them. They are the primary. But when you're on equal playing grounds with like a venue thing, it's like, and you have 20 bands or whatever, it's kind of like you just try to get along with everybody. Hey, you guys good? Hey, you think we could do this or do that? But usually there is a pecking order. Yeah. In the diplomatic or high threat stuff that I've seen.
Yeah.
And there is the mutual respect. Like you respect the guys that are doing it. You know what they're going through, what they're dealing with. So you help each other out a lot. I would say the people that I've worked with, over 95% of them have been good, and we've worked together and no issues. We figure it out. Like you said, the pecking order. All right, who's in charge? Or when you got this area, I got that area. There's only been a couple times where I've had an issue. And one, I'll give you a quick story because I know you love stories, Lefty. So I'm in New York City. We're at an after hours place, and I got the after hour party room. So I'm right there at the door at the entrance, controlling the entry point. And this guy walks in. So I stand up and I'm like, hey, can I help you? Who are you here with? What are you doing? And he's like, well, who are you? And I'm like, no, you're entering my room. I'm controlling this area. Who are you? Why are you coming in? And he started to buck up. I'm like, oh man, this is going the wrong direction. Well, luckily the manager of the it wasn't a venue, but the party or whatnot was like, hey, that's so-and-so's guy. I'm not going to drop any names for this.
Sure.
But it was like, afterwards, I'm like, brother, man, come on. Like, what I'm doing. You do this type of thing. You're entering an area with celebrities and VIPs.
Yeah, so
and you're getting mad when you get challenged at the entranceway. Like,
that you do the same thing.
I'm doing exactly what you do. Like, hello. And he was a dick. And he was one of those big, I forget who said it, Brian or Jim, like the big muscle head. He's hired for the muscles, the intimidation factor. And he thought,
well, it was a rap guy that was there. Is that? I mean, you look at the security details for these rap guys, and they're all just these gigantic freaking.
And then they're looking for I would take a 5 foot, 450-pound dude that has his shit wired tight over a 6'5", 300-pounder, because this dude trains, educates, understands, the game, as opposed to just a meathead that wants to push everybody around, right? And cause scenes. We had a guy on Lincoln Park, big, heavy set dude. And in Europe, this was years ago, they actually our crew wanted to go see a movie. All right, we're going to the movies, right? And they assign seats. You buy a ticket, it comes to a seat, right? Shit. And our principal, one of the band members, his security dude didn't have the seat right next to him, sat in it, and this guy comes up and said, sir, that's my seat. And he's like, get the fuck out of here. Just say, go sit somewhere else, and created a scene, right?
Yeah.
Like, how else could you handle that, right? Instead of just being a dick, like, be cordial. Hey, I understand, but hey, here's where I'm at. This is why I need to sit here. If you're cool with it, I'll buy you some fucking popcorn, something, right? As opposed to just bowing up and making a scene and making our guy look like an asshole.
Reimbursing for his ticket or something. Yeah, yes. Definitely.
Yeah, here's my ticket. You obviously bought one. You got in there. Just, hey, do you mind trading seats? I'll buy you popcorn, like you said, or whatnot, and then explain this. Yeah.
You get more with honey than you do with vinegar, man. And
Well, you said it earlier. You know, it's being diplomatic is your main weapon. You know, is being able to talk and de-escalate the situation. So that leads me to our final question, and then we'll wrap this up. I've got a couple of listeners here that are asking Fled Munitions, Jerry Black. There might be another one, but basically what their question boils down to is, you know, what kind of a person does it take to dedicate their life and career to this type of service? And I'll kind of leave it at that. And I think we're kind of getting an idea from you guys as to what it's going to take, but just something else that you would add. If somebody's thinking about getting into this line of work, what are some things that they just really need to think about? And also, you know, deep down in themselves, you know, they need to, am I the type of person for this?
Well, I think work ethic's important. I mean, this is manual labor when you get down to it. It's hard work, and you need to, you have to have that kind of ethic. You have to be timely. Being timely and on time is the most important thing you can do in this gig as far as presenting yourself. You have to have somebody that can think on their feet, somebody that can talk to people. I think it's important to have those hard skills as well. If you're going to have somebody that's actually an armed professional, somebody that's carrying a weapon in their job, then they need to be a precision shooter. They need to be somebody that's the best of shooters, you know? So I think that's one of the essential things is just being a hard worker. And that comes from the kind of backgrounds that these kind of guys have, you know, from the military, from law enforcement, but even, you know, I've seen guys that are linemen or, you know, concrete workers that have changed careers and gotten into executive protection, and they're good at it because they're hard ass workers.
But they dedicated themselves to that profession. So they're going and getting the, you know, the hand-to-hand and physical training. They're getting the weapons training. They're getting the diplomatic, you know, then being able to.
And you can't pretend
to
do something else. It's not a part-time job. If you're going to define yourself as an executive protection person, you got to do this job, and you got to do it all the time. You can't be, you know, a coffee barista on the side and do EP work. It's just not how it works. You've got to define yourself at it. There's going to be down times, especially when you're starting out in this industry, and you just got to keep grinding at it. And sooner or later, you'll build up, and you'll build up clientele. You'll build up reputation. You'll build up bona fides, and you'll become good at this job and respected in this job.
Something I would add to that is he's absolutely right on that, and it is a commitment. So what I have found too is there is a characteristic that I see works best. And I'll tell you, I'll be the first one to tell you, you don't got to be a Delta Force operator to do this job. Most of them are not good at it. And it's because they live that lifestyle where they were the focal point, right? Everything was built around me being able to do my job, right? So when you come into this job in the civilian side of things, there's a lot of selflessness, humility that has to come with it, and put others in front of yourself and things you might want to be doing. And then also have a massive, if you have a family, you better have a massively supportive backstop, your family, right? That supports it, or it'll crumble you. If your family isn't behind it 100%, it'll destroy it, because it is absolutely demanding of your time. And you must put it first before anything else to be very good at it. Does that make sense?
Well, absolutely.
Absolutely. And I would echo that. You gotta be selfless, because it's not about you. It's about your client. It's about the mission. So you are living for that other person, you know, to protect, provide, keep them secure. And you need to live that way, or you're not going to be successful at the job. And having a family makes it so much harder. If you're married, your spouse is going to need to understand that the phone's going to ring, or you're going to be gone for a certain amount of time. There's so much that drains from you. It takes a special person. If you have the hard work ethic and you're a people person, because you're going to be dealing with people, you got to read the room, read people, like we were talking about before, and you have to be selfless, because that other person that you're working with, that's your world at that point. It's almost like having a child. You know, you're raising a kid, you're all about that kid. Well, the client, they're not kids, but you got to look after them and take care of them the same way you would with the caring.
I will add to that is with this is what I've seen, and I'll tell you firsthand that I've fallen into the trap because I do have a pretty interesting background and have done some pretty neat things. Your clients usually don't care. You know, they hired you before because of that, but they don't care. They've got their own issues, they do their own things. So it is absolutely a profession of be seen, not heard. When asked a question, answer it. You know, be candid about it, answer the question. But you're not there to create conversation and become their buddies. A lot of times, they must initiate that, and then you still need to be able to manage that and not go overboard. And I have done it. I got spoiled with that ambassador in Bosnia, who absolutely loved me, would bring me over to dinner. And then I take that like, oh, the next guy's going to be the same. Guess what? I got fired because they don't give a fuck about you. You're an asset and that's it, right? Like you're there to do a job and they don't want to hear about how your cool Rambo stories or this or that. They don't want to do it, right? So it's literally a job. Be seen, not heard. Carry yourself professionally. Be kind. Be selfless. Right? And it's not about you. No matter how badass your background, career, or story you have, don't say it unless you're asked.
Yeah. One of the first things we tell new hires that work with our company is keep your mouth shut. Don't talk to the client unless you're being talked to. Just, minimize the talk.
It'll kill your job.
Quickest way to turn off a client.
Children should be seen and not heard.
Yeah.
Literally.
So, this is the Talking Lead podcast, and we're known for rewarding our audience. And today, for the people who participated in our questions, we're going to give away a Mission First Tactical Drinky Drink.
Oh, that's cool.
May not be this one. This is mine. I've customized it and everything, but it'll be something similar to this. So I will start with, let's let Daniel pick a number between 1 and 30, and that's going to be our lucky
23.
winner. There you go. You'd have to pick one right there, wouldn't you? And the winner is Tongue for Twistin'.
All right.
So
congrats, Twistin'.
Those.
That thing's
email me talkingled@gmail.com and give me your address. We're going to forward it on to our good buddies over at Mission First Tactical, and they're going to hook you up with a drinky drink. And I think Daniel's got one of these, don't you?
Yes, I have a couple of Mission First drinks. They're great. Right. My kids actually try and always steal them from me because they think they're so cool.
I bet they stole those bags from you.
One of them. I wouldn't let them take them all.
So our next giveaway is going to be Seal 1. They're going to get a packet of Seal 1 complete gun care cleaning kit, Seal 1 and done. So we'll let Brian pick that winner. Brian, between 1 and 30. Don't pick 23.
18.
So I'll just count up from that. And the winner is J. Edgar Paradox.
All right.
Congratulations.
J. Edgar, congratulations. You get the
lube. You got lube.
The gun lube from Seal 1 and done. And if you want Mission First Tactical, they make holsters, they make magazines, they make AR accessories. Use the code LEADHEAD and you're going to get 20% off. Just go to their website. You'll get 20% off anything on their website, even if it's on sale. That's how much they love you, you leadheads. And then Seal 1, you can go to their website, seal1.com, and use the code LEADHEAD, and you get 25% off any of their products on their website as well.
I forgot to tell you, Marty, my company, Shooting Performance Institute, is coming out with a new gun lube called Hawktua. It should be available.
I hope you patented that because there's everybody else is coming out. Everybody else is coming out with that gun lube too. But there you go, lead heads. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Very educational. Leducational is what we call it here on the Talking Lead podcast. And I greatly appreciate you gentlemen taking the time to join me, especially on such short notice. This has been a great episode. It's probably one of my favorite episodes that I've done this year so far. So, Jim, thank you so much, brother. Appreciate it. Again, give your company a plug. You got training courses coming up.
Yep.
Let us hear about those.
shootingperformanceinstitute.com. We'll put them on the website. We got our training, anything from a yard to a mile. Do have a lot of post certification stuff too for my LE guys. We definitely give a discount to law enforcement. I do travel out to do that. We did stuff in Oregon, North Dakota, Texas, Alabama. Been all over with it. I don't have to be Tom Brady, but Tom Brady's got a coach. So even if you're pretty good at what you do, I'm very good at picking out and helping you fine tune that stuff and make you a better shooter, regardless of the platform. Except for shotguns. Last time I used shotguns, we were just blowing doors off of hinges with them. So do that.
Give that website again.
shootingperformanceinstitute.com.
And on the socials?
Jim Kraken 1, Kraken, and the number 1 on the IG and Instagram. Appreciate the follows. We try to keep some products out there, do some posts. I'm not the best at it because I'd rather be in front of the camera than trying to figure out how to put it on the damn social media.
I got a guy for you.
Sweet. We'll talk because that's my fail state right there.
Yeah, mine too. Daniel, again, appreciate you. This is your second episode. So
great to be here, man. I appreciate it.
No, absolutely. So give your I think I've got yours pulled up here. Sorry, Jim, I didn't have yours at the ready.
But yeah, anybody that wants to understand, the mindset of a good executive protection person, or the mindset of, a special forces operator, or anybody in special operations that's, been successful or reached elite levels of success, and how they think, how they approach things, how they attack stuff, pick up my book, The Asset Mindset. It's pretty much a manual that's going to tell you how you need to think, how to build pace plans, primary, alternate contingencies, emergencies, how to attack life, and just make your dreams come true, and realize that you can accomplish more than you ever thought you could, because you are your greatest asset.
Is that back or audio and audible?
It's audio and audible, and paperback is being released in September. Right now, It's just hard copy with Simon & Schuster. But yeah, if you type in The Asset Mindset or my name, Daniel Fielding, it'll come right up.
Sweet.
Is that how we met, through Simon & Schuster? Was that?
Yes. Yep. That's how we ended up linking up.
I thought, David Brown.
Yes.
I believe it was. Yeah, that hooked us up.
Yeah, and it's just, honestly, guys like us with military background, I was a blue collar guy. I never thought I'd be an author, and it came up, and it's changing people's lives. And, sometimes the pen is mightier than the sword.
There you go. And there's Jim's website. I've got it up there. That is the right website, right? Jim, you're muted. Jim, you're muted.
Yeah, you said that like 3 times. Yeah, it's funny. Like, I got this Kraken logo and nickname, and I don't even like the water. I was an Army dude. I'm an air and land guy, but anyway, the nickname stuck, so we use the Kraken for the logo there.
That's funny. And Brian, what do you want to plug there, man? You got so many things going on.
Yeah. So Tennessee Rangers, TennesseeRangers.org, and that's our charity. So hit us up, send us a donation, join us. We have a grueling in-doc process that we select our members for. We just finished with 2024 summer in-doc, and it was a grind. It's a real gut check for folks that want to join it. You don't have to be former military or law enforcement, but many are. But we take folks that are not, and we'll train you up. We'll get you through our selection process, and you can be one of Tennessee's best men. Also, SAPS, Squadron Augmented Protection Services. That's www.tnsaps.com, and security services of all types. So
say that again, to
www.tnsaps.com.
I'm going to pull that up. There it is.
Us. And we are always taking new customers. We run numerous venues within Nashville, Birmingham, Detroit. So we've got a lot of executive protection stuff that we do. We run security at warehouses, bars, live music venues, etc. So if you need help on that front, if you need good professionals, sharp folks on your detail, on your security functionality, holler at us. We've got the best guys in the business, bar none.
There you go. And then for Andrew, he is a failed state and relapse the cost of war. You guys can go to Amazon. Let's see if I can pull that up. Did that come up there? You go to Amazon and you can check out his books. And then he said the third one is on its way out. So it's going to be a trilogy and they're working on a TV show. I hope that works out for him. That's going to be awesome. But we'll try to get Andrew back on another episode. I know he dropped out there on us. But again, thank you guys so much. I greatly appreciate if there's anything that I can do, Talking Lead can do for you guys. I'm here for you. All you got to do is reach out and say, hey, Lefty, we need this, and I'll help you.
Right on. Appreciate you having us on. There's
Thank
a lot of toxic masculinity, and I liked it.
I like it a lot. So,
Have fun.
Leadheads, go and support these guys. Go to their Instagrams, go to their websites, follow them, give them likes, let them know you're Leadheads. And until the next episode, as always, keep your loved ones close. And then my guest will say, and your firearms closer.
And then
And your firearms closer.
And your firearms closer.
Firearms closer. Adios, gentlemen.
There you go, guys. Appreciate it. I'll be in touch with you. Shoot you links when this drops.
Daniel.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yeah, Larry's a legend, bro. I was with him when I got out of the unit. Him and I ran the free fall platoon for Lurs, and so fucking that's one of my closest brothers.